Hi and welcome to my channel. In this video I want to show you how to crochet this tiny crab. One of the things I really enjoy is pairing amigurumi with interesting stitches. And recently I came across this stitch that creates these little knobs and I thought it would work really well for a crab shell. So I went ahead and made this tiny crab. I also made some other shell animals, so stay tuned for my future tutorials if you'd like to see those as well. For this project you'll need some amigurumi yarn, a crochet hook in a matching size, some stuffing, optionally some safety eyes, a yarn needle and a pair of scissors. In this video I'll also be experimenting with adding wire to the legs to see how it looks. The crab I'm showing you right now doesn't require any wire though, so that's completely up to you. With that being said, let's get started. First we start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. For this crab, I'll be working in joint rounds. So after each round, I do a slip stitch into the first stitch and chain 1 to bring the work up to the height of the next round. You can also work this pattern in continuous rounds instead if you prefer. It works just as well. So now we have 6 stitches. Next, we work a single crochet, followed by an increase of 3 stitches. And that means first a single crochet, then the second stitch of the increase is a picot single crochet. I started like a normal single crochet, but before the final pull through, I chain 3, and then I complete the stitch as usual. Then I work another single crochet into the same stitch. So in total we have 3 stitches in one. Next we work 2 single crochets. Now we repeat the same increase as before. A single crochet, a picot single crochet, and a single crochet in the same stitch. And then another single crochet. We should now have a total of 10 stitches. I finish the round with a slip stitch, chain 1 and start the next round. Now we work a single crochet. Then an increase. However, the first stitch of my increase is a picot single crochet. Then a normal single crochet into the same stitch to complete the increase. Now another normal increase of 2 single crochets. And now we work an increase with a single crochet and a picot single crochet. And then another single crochet. For the other half, we mirror what we did for the first half. So you basically repeat the same sequence. A single crochet, an increase with a picot single crochet and a single crochet, a normal increase, and an increase with a single crochet and a picot single crochet. And then another single crochet. We should now be up to 16 stitches in total. Now we continue in the next round with 2 single crochets. Then an increase with a single crochet and a picot single crochet in the same stitch. And then a normal increase. Then we mirror the same sequence, a normal increase, then an increase with a picot single crochet and a single crochet in the same stitch, and 2 single crochets. Now for the other half, you continue the same sequence. Basically, you can think of this as a circle with 4 quarters. In each quarter, we have a certain sequence that is mirrored or repeated so that the circle stays symmetrical. I hope this helps to understand the pattern a bit better. I will put an example visual on screen so you can see what I mean based on this round. At the end of this round, we should have a stitch count of 24. Now for the next round, we start with a single crochet. Then a picot single crochet, then an increase, and 3 single crochets. Now we mirror again, 3 single crochets, an increase, a picot single crochet, and a single crochet. For the other half, you repeat the same sequence. So now I'm done with this round and we are at 28 stitches in total. For the next round, we start with 4 single crochets, then an increase with a single crochet and a picot single crochet. And then 2 single crochets. Now mirrored, 2 single crochets, an increase with a picot single crochet and a single crochet, and 4 single crochets. Repeat the same sequence again for the other half. At the end, we should have 32 stitches in total. Now we continue in the next round with 2 single crochets. A picot single crochet, another single crochet, an increase, and 3 single crochets. And now mirrored, 3 single crochets, an increase, another single crochet, a picot single crochet, and 2 single crochets. For the other half, repeat the same sequence. This round comes to a total of 36 stitches. Now, the next round will be our last round on the shell. After this round, we will start the bottom part of the crab. So for this last round on the shell, work 3 single crochets, an increase, then a single crochet, then an increase with a picot single crochet and a single crochet, then a single crochet, a picot single crochet, and another single crochet. And now reverse, a single crochet, a picot single crochet, a single crochet, an increase with a single crochet and a picot single crochet, a single crochet, an increase, and finally 3 single crochets. Repeat the same sequence for the other half, just like we did in the previous rounds. At the end of this round, we should reach 44 stitches in total. This will also be our maximum, as we will start decreasing soon. Now to start with the bottom, or actually first the middle part of the crab, I start by changing my yarn color. Then I work 17 slip stitches into the back loop only. After that, I work a single crochet, a half double crochet, and 3 double crochets. Now I repeat the same sequence in reverse for the other half. The idea here is that the slip stitches add no real height, which is what we want to achieve for the back of the crab. In the front, where the eyes will be sewn or attached, we want to add some height. We do that by working not slip stitches, but instead a single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochets. And we work into the back loop only to support downward shaping. After this round, we should still be at 44 stitches in total. In the next round, we start decreasing properly. We begin with a single crochet into the back loop only. Then we work a decrease, also into the back loops only. The whole round is worked in back loops only, except for the stitches where we didn't work slip stitches in the previous round. There you can work into both loops. Now, 5 single crochets into the back loop only. Then we repeat the decrease and 5 single crochets again 2 times. So in total, we will repeat decrease 5 single crochets 3 times. Now for the other half, you simply repeat the same sequence in reverse. So you start with 5 single crochets, followed by a decrease, repeat that another 2 times, and at the end you work 1 single crochet. At the end of this round, you should be down to 38 stitches in total. Now you continue into both loops in the next round with 1 single crochet. Then a decrease followed by 4 single crochets repeated 3 times. So decrease, 4 single crochets, decrease, 4 single crochets, decrease, and 4 single crochets. After you're done with that, you work the same sequence in reverse, which means 4 single crochets and a decrease repeated 3 times, and then a single crochet at the end. At the end of this round, you should be down to 32 stitches. In the next round, work 3 single crochets and a decrease repeated 3 times, followed by a single crochet. After that, repeat the same sequence in reverse on the other side. 1 single crochet, and then a decrease and 3 single crochets repeated 3 times. At the end of this round, you should have 26 stitches. Now for the next round, work 2 single crochets and a decrease repeated 3 times, followed by a single crochet. And then, like we did in the previous rounds, work the same sequence in reverse on the other side. A single crochet, and then a decrease and 2 single crochets repeated 3 times. Now you should be down to 20 stitches. At this point, our little friend is slowly starting to take shape. Now I like to add a bit of personality by adding some eyes. I will use safety eyes, however you can also sew them on or just not use any eyes at all. This is totally up to your preference. If you use safety eyes, I recommend placing them in the space we created by working double crochets in the front. I would also recommend using very small ones. Mine are about 5 millimeters, and I placed them so that there are about 3 to 4 stitches in between the 2 eyes in the round of double crochets. Inserting the eyes should be fairly easy since due to the double crochets the stitches in the front are a bit looser. Now after we've added the eyes, we continue to decrease in the next round. We start with a single crochet and then continue by working a decrease and a single crochet repeated 3 times. By the way, I usually use invisible decreases. That means I insert my hook in the front loops of the 2 stitches I want to decrease and then work a single crochet through both. I do this wherever I can, but you may have noticed that when I have to work in the back loops only, I use a normal decrease instead, since it's quite challenging to do an invisible one in back loops only, like we had to do it in an earlier round. Just as a side note. When you are done with the decrease and single crochet repeated 3 times, you, surprise, work the same sequence in reverse on the other side. So a single crochet and a decrease repeated 3 times, and then at the end another single crochet. After this round, you should be down to 14 stitches. Now, before we continue with the next round, make sure to stuff the main body, as we will close it now. To close, simply decrease all around. That should be 7 decreases in total. After decreasing 7 times, use a yarn needle to close the remaining opening. I usually do this by inserting my yarn needle into the front loops of the remaining stitches and pulling the opening closed. Fasten off and weave in the end. Great, you are done with the main body. Now, before we move on to the legs, let's add a small detail in the front. Basically, I want to add some depth to the eye section. You could say I want to add something like eyebrows. I do this by working slip stitches on top of the stitches in the front, through the front loop only. So on top of the round where we work double crochets in the front, I used a loop we didn't use, since we worked in back loop only in that round, and work slip stitches into it. This adds a bit of depth and creates an eyebrow-like effect in the front. So I attach my yarn, and in total I add roughly 10 slip stitches here in the front. Then, after I'm done, I weave in the ends. You can see it kind of makes a difference. Now let's continue with the small legs. Here you will need to make 6 legs in total. You start with a magic ring of 5 single crochets. After that, you simply work 5 single crochets in each of the next 6 rounds. I recommend working in continuous rounds here, since it's easier and the leg is quite small. After you're done with the leg, you can fasten off, but make sure to leave a slightly longer tail for sewing it onto the body later. You can, however, get rid of the tail from the magic ring at the start. Before we move on, a short break. My cats have decided to quality check my work. I've made 6 legs now, so that's done. Takes a bit of time, but since they're quite small, time goes by quicker than I thought. Now we move on to the crab's claws. The claw hand basically consists of 2 parts that are crocheted together. We start with a magic ring of 4. I work in continuous rounds here again since the arm is quite small. Then, in the next round, I work an increase, two single crochets, and another increase. Your total stitch count should be 6 now. In the next round, we work 6 single crochets all around. Now this first piece is done. You can fasten off for now and later we will use it again. Next, start again with 4 single crochets into a magic ring. Then in the next round, work an increase, two single crochets, and another increase, so that your stitch count goes up to 6 stitches in total. In the next round, we work 6 single crochets all around. Then, after this round, we work an increase, 4 single crochets, and another increase. You should have 8 stitches in total now. Now work 4 single crochets. And then join to the other piece we created before. On the other smaller piece, work 6 single crochets all around. Then work another 4 single crochets on the piece we started this round with. Now with the 2 pieces combined, we have a total of 14 stitches. In the next round, work a decrease, 3 single crochets, and another decrease. Then repeat the same sequence again for the other side. At the end of this round, we should have a total of 10 stitches. In the next round, we continue with a decrease. Then a single crochet and a decrease. Then we repeat the same sequence again. decrease, single crochet, decrease. At the end, we should be left with 6 stitches in total. Now for the next 2 rounds, work 6 single crochets all around. Then, after you're done, cut the yarn but leave one longer tail so that we have something to use for sewing it onto the main body. Now go ahead and repeat the same process to make another one of the claws. Now we are pretty much done with all the legs and the claws. Before we continue, I found this wire and it's a bit thick, but I will try to use it for the legs. Basically, I cut a piece and insert it into the leg. It's really a bit too thick. If you want to use wire, I'd recommend using thinner wire because this one is almost unbendable once cut. Anyway, this is the final leg with wire in it. Now, since I'm done with all the legs and claws, I will start sewing the pieces onto the body. Before sewing the pieces onto the body, I wanted to mention a couple of things regarding the finishing touches. First, I used wire for my legs, but alternatively you can leave them as they are and add a couple of stitches in the middle of each leg to bend it slightly. That works just as well. You can also add a couple of stitches to the claws to help shape them correctly. As you can see, the claws should lie flat like this. First, I start with the claws. They are placed in the front, quite close to the eyes, roughly 3 to 4 stitches away from each eye. When sewing the claws and also the legs onto the body, try to use the gap in between the rounds where we changed colors. This way you can hide the stitches better and it makes it look like the legs and claws are naturally attached to the body. Now that we've sewn on the claws, you can attach the legs as well. Basically, they should be right next to each other with no gap in between, or at most 1 stitch in between. Again, try to use the gap between the rounds where we changed color so that the stitches aren't visible. Great! Now we've sewn on all 6 legs and the crab is almost done. There's just one more detail missing, the mouth. For the mouth, we want to add a short line of black yarn, about 2 stitches long, right underneath the eyes. There we go, the mouth is added and the crab is done. This is what the finished crab looks like. The crab I made before is slightly smaller because I used a slightly thinner yarn. But if you use DK weight amigurumi yarn, the brighter crab is approximately the size you should end up with. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you have any questions, feedback or comments, as always let me know in the comments below. If you created your own little crab, I'd also love to see it. So feel free to share some pictures, I'm super curious. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.